The year was 1929. The city, Düsseldorf, a place of vibrant culture and burgeoning industry. A creeping terror began to consume its inhabitants, a darkness that would stain the cobblestone streets with the blood of innocence. The once lively streets now echoed with an eerie silence. A name whispered in hushed tones would soon become synonymous with unimaginable cruelty and bloodlust. Peter Kürten, the vampire of Düsseldorf. His presence was a shadow that loomed over the city. Born in 1883, Kürten's life was a tapestry woven with threads of depravity and violence from a young age. His childhood was marked by hardship and brutality. Early encounters with animal cruelty blossomed into a morbid fascination with blood and death, foreshadowing the horrors he would later inflict upon the unsuspecting city. These acts were just the beginning of his dark journey. This was no ordinary criminal. His crimes were not driven by need or desperation, but by a deep-seated malevolence. This was a monster cloaked in human skin, a predator who thrived on fear and suffering. Düsseldorf, a bustling metropolis on the banks of the Rhine, would become his hunting ground, its citizens his prey. The city's beauty and vibrancy masked the lurking danger. The city, vibrant and full of life, was oblivious to the predator lurking in its midst. People went about their daily lives, unaware of the horror that awaited them. A storm was brewing, and at its heart lay a malevolence that would forever scar the city's soul. The darkness that descended upon Düsseldorf would leave an indelible mark on its history. Kürten's reign of terror did not explode overnight. It smoldered, a slow burn of disturbing incidents that escalated in their depravity. His criminal record began early, petty theft and arson hinting at a deeper, more sinister nature. Then came the violence. Attacks on women, brutal and seemingly random, began to plague the city. The assailant, however, remained elusive, a phantom disappearing into the labyrinthine streets. Each attack grew bolder, more brazen, the violence escalating with chilling intensity. Whispers of a madman on the loose spread through the taverns and back alleys of Düsseldorf. Fear, like a thick fog, began to settle over the once carefree city. Little did they know, the worst was yet to come. As 1929 wore on, the attacks took a horrific turn. Murders, as brutal as they were inexplicable, gripped Düsseldorf in a vice of terror. The victims, seemingly chosen at random, shared a common thread, the sheer savagery of their deaths. The term vampire began to circulate, whispered in hushed tones. The brutality of the murders, the seemingly random selection of victims, and the whispers of blood drinking fueled the growing hysteria. The police, overwhelmed and under immense pressure, struggled to find a pattern, a clue, anything to help them catch the monster in their midst. Düsseldorf, once a beacon of progress and prosperity, had become a hunting ground. The city held its breath, united in fear as the body count rose and the vampire of Düsseldorf remained at large. Kürten did not just kill, he reveled in the act, drawing out the suffering of his victims, savoring every moment of their agony. His bloodlust grew with every heinous act, feeding an insatiable hunger for violence. His weapons were as varied as his victims, knives, hammers, his bare hands. Each tool was chosen with a purpose, each strike calculated. Each murder bore his gruesome signature, a macabre testament to his depraved desires. He often targeted women and children, their vulnerability a perverse attraction for him. He would stalk his victims, choosing the time and place of their demise with chilling meticulousness. The act of drinking their blood, a chilling detail revealed in his later confession, earned him the moniker, the Vampire of Düsseldorf. The sheer brutality of his crimes, coupled with the seemingly random selection of victims, sent a chill down the spine of even the most hardened police officer. The city was dealing with a monster who found pleasure in the infliction of pain, a sadist who fed off the terror he instilled. His reign of terror left an indelible mark on the city, a dark chapter in its history. The fear he spread was palpable, a constant reminder of the evil lurking in the shadows. The Vampire of Düsseldorf was not just a name. It was a symbol of the horror that gripped the city. His legacy is one of fear and brutality, a reminder of the depths of human depravity. The random selection of his victims made everyone feel vulnerable. No one was safe. Even the most hardened police officers were left shaken by the sheer brutality of his acts. The city was dealing with a monster who found pleasure in the infliction of pain, a sadist who fed off the terror he instilled. His reign of terror left an indelible mark on the city, a dark chapter in its history. Section 5. Victims, men, women, children, none were spared. The innocent blood of men, women, and children stained the hands of Peter Kürten. His reign of terror knew no boundaries, and his cruelty was unmatched. His victims, forever etched in the city's memory, serve as a chilling reminder of his indiscriminate brutality. Each crime scene told a story of horror and despair, leaving an indelible mark on the community. Their stories, tragic and heartbreaking, paint a picture of a monster who preyed on the vulnerable, who took pleasure in extinguishing the light of life. Families were torn apart and the city was plunged into a state of perpetual mourning. There was Gertrude Franken, a 9-year-old girl on her way home from school, snatched off the street and brutally murdered. Her innocent life was cut short, leaving a void that could never be filled. Her death, a hammer blow to the city's soul, intensified the fear gripping Düsseldorf. The community's grief was palpable, and the sense of loss was overwhelming. Then came the murder of Rudolf Scheer, a mechanic found stabbed to death, his blood seemingly drained from his body. The brutality of his murder sent shockwaves through the city. Each victim added another layer of fear to the city's already heavy cloak of terror. The streets of Düsseldorf became a place of dread, where every shadow held a potential threat. The citizens of Düsseldorf, living under the specter of the vampire, were left to wonder who would be next. The fear was omnipresent, and the sense of security was shattered. Section 6. A glimmer of hope, the beginning of the end. As the body count rose, so did the pressure on the police. The investigation, fraught with dead ends and false leads, seemed to be going nowhere. The citizens of Düsseldorf, desperate for an end to the nightmare, began to lose faith. However, amidst the despair, a glimmer of hope emerged. A series of letters, penned by the killer himself and sent to the police, provided the first real break in the case. These letters, filled with chilling details of the crimes, were signed "The Vampire." One letter crucially led police to the scene of a recent attack where the victim, though brutally injured, had survived. Her testimony, though fragmented and confused, provided a vital clue. The attacker had helped her send a postcard. This act of misplaced compassion would prove to be Kürten's undoing. Section 7. The Trial, a spectacle of horror and boasting. In May 1930, after a nationwide manhunt, Peter Kürten was finally apprehended. The arrest, sparked by a tip-off from a sharp-eyed postal worker, brought a collective sigh of relief to the terror-stricken city. The trial, a media sensation, offered a chilling glimpse into the mind of a monster. Kürten, showing no remorse, seemed to relish in recounting his crimes. His detailed confessions, delivered with a chilling calmness, shocked and appalled the courtroom. He spoke of his bloodlust, his enjoyment of the kill, his fascination with the suffering of his victims. The prosecution, led by the determined Dr. Karl presented a mountain of evidence, including Kürten's own confessions and the testimony of surviving victims. The defense, arguing insanity, attempted to portray Kürten as a victim of his own twisted desires. The jury, however, was unconvinced. Section 8. The executioner's blade, justice served, but at what cost? On July 2, 1931, Peter Kürten, the vampire of Düsseldorf, was sentenced to death. The sentence, met with cheers from the public gallery, offered a sense of closure to a city held hostage by fear for over 2 years. His execution by guillotine, a swift and brutal end to a life of unimaginable cruelty, took place on July 2, 1931. As the blade fell, many wondered if the true depths of Kürten's depravity would ever be fully understood. The city of Düsseldorf, scarred but not broken, slowly began to heal. The memory of the vampire, however, lingered, a dark stain on the city's history. Section 9. The Vampire's Shadow, Kürten's Haunting Legacy. Even in death, Peter Kürten, the vampire of Düsseldorf, continues to cast a long shadow. His crimes, a stark reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of humanity, serve as a cautionary tale, a chilling reminder that monsters do exist. His story has been told and retold, the subject of countless books, films, and documentaries. The house where he committed some of his most heinous crimes was demolished, but the site remains, a silent testament to the horrors that transpired there. The vampire of Düsseldorf, though gone, is far from forgotten. His legacy serves as a chilling reminder of the fragility of innocence, the ever-present potential for evil to lurk in the shadows, and the importance of vigilance in a world where monsters can wear the mask of man.